Yo. Aubrey Edwards, Tony Schiavone. We bout to party. We bout to party. Unrestricted. Got the house now. We gon' turn it up.
Everyone, this is AEW Unrestricted. You've got Aubrey, you've got Will Washington, and it is Forbidden Door week. We are so pumped to be here. Like, I know when we had Will on as guest co-host, interviewee, like whatever the hell, you were there for everything. We talked about our excitement of Forbidden Door last year and how excited we are this year because how incredible that show was. So I'm very excited to do our Forbidden Door preview episode with Rocky Romero, who is such a huge part of New Japan, and I've loved getting to work with him both on the boat in the middle of the ocean, but also on Dynamite and all kinds of capacities. So let's hi Rocky, thank you again for being here. I know you were on the podcast last year, and it's so good to see your face again.
Thanks for having me. It's always a blast to be here and hanging out with you all. And Will, this is our first time podcasting together.
Yeah,
so I mean,
I know. It's
cool.
one of those things. It's one of those things that I had been kind of trying for in various capacities and all the other podcasts I had done. And we had talked about it. We talked about hey, one day, we'll get you on a podcast, and then
this is that day.
Go figure. Now we're on that side, and it's great to have you here.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Sunday, June 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern, buy-in at 7, live from Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. We've got the Forbidden Door 2. It's going to be open again, traditional pay-per-view. You can stream it on Bleacher Report, Fight TV. Rocky, I don't know if you have insight into this, but what was sort of the decision to hold Forbidden Door in Toronto? Because I'm personally excited because Toronto is an excellent crowd. And I know we've sold something like 12,000 tickets to that show. It's going to be incredible.
So, I think Toronto was in the running. I think there was... New Jersey was in the running, somewhere in New Jersey, and there's a couple of spots that were in the running, and it just seemed like Toronto was definitely going to be the best city. I mean, obviously, summertime in Toronto is like perfect, right? So it's a great destination spot because I feel like Forbidden Door needs to be in a destination spot, because there definitely is a lot of fly-ins from all across the world who come in, for this specific event every year. So second year in a row. So I think that was important when finally making the decision. I guess Chris Harrington possibly made that decision. I'm not sure. And we'll say it's so far it's everything's going well. So we'll say it's Chris. If it changes, we'll change it to somebody else down the line. It'll be my fault or something. We'll see. But so far, like 12,000 plus tickets sold, and I expect there to be, quite a few more moving this week.
Yeah, I love that it's almost like neutral territory, right? Because you've got AEW, that is a US-based promotion, and then you've got New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is obviously a Japanese-based promotion. And so when the two collide, it's like, you know what? Toronto, Canada. Therefore, it's nobody's home turf at this point, and it's kind of anybody's ball game.
I'm really excited, and I know the travel guys are probably having a hell of a time trying to get the visas working for another country. So there's like a whole extra element to this that I'm like, this is going to be real exciting just purely for the fact that like the fact that this is coming together. And I think it's hard to talk about Forbidden Door this year without talking about Forbidden Door last year and just how incredible that show was. Like, it was just highly acclaimed from the press, but also like the show that was originally planned didn't happen in multiple ways. And I think like, I distinctly remember like that week we're recording this preview podcast with TK, and like he was changing the card because more people had gotten hurt. And it was just so absolutely insane. Like, I feel like I'm knocking on wood constantly talking about Forbidden Door. Just like, let's hope everyone stays healthy and all this sort of stuff. Rocky, how did you feel about how Forbidden Door went last year, given all of the turmoil that we had?
Yeah, it definitely felt going into Forbidden Door like there was like the Forbidden Door curse. Like, we should not have done this. We should not have brought these two companies together. We should not be having this event. And then and then we just started seeing wrestlers just fall off, through injuries, through, COVID. I mean, there was like travel issues. I mean, like everything under the sun that could possibly go wrong definitely went wrong. And me and TK had some really late nights trying to figure out what to do and who was available and going back and forth between the Japan side and trying to figure it out. It was pretty stressful. But so far, so good this year.
Knock on all the wood.
Knock on all the wood. Knock on all the wood. So I think last year obviously was, I think, just an incredible show. The crowd alone had a very unique energy, I think, compared to maybe some other shows last year. And that helped to make, just the atmosphere incredible. And as well, probably my favorite pay-per-view that I've seen in a very long time. I mean, I'm biased because I was, part of
Clearly.
it, but for sure, I thought it was a great pay-per-view. And I expect that this year is going to blow last year's out of the water, So, obviously, once we get into it to talk about, some of the big matches that have already been announced, it just feels like it's even bigger this year in a way, I think we're really getting to see kind of the dream match aspect of it really kind of come together this year. And I think last year was just kind of the blueprint, putting it down, explaining it to the fan base who didn't know. And, your casual fan who's heard of New Japan, but, not really sure what it is or who some of the wrestlers are. And then, you've got your AEW fan base that hasn't seen any, just the New Japan wrestlers that come over here and there. So I think that this year, I expect big things,
Yeah, and last year, it's odd to think about the idea that with this card coming together the way it is in the dream match aspect of it, and it still has the lofty goal of living up to last year, because last year's show, I think, was a card that, even though it didn't really come together the way it was planned, still on paper, it was a card that everybody was looking forward to. We still got to see.
Yes.
I felt like for almost the 2 years prior to it, Jon Moxley and Hiroshi Tanahashi was a dream match for a lot of people. That was a match that people wanted to see, and it wasn't even the originally intended match. But we still got to see it in that capacity, and we still got to see Moxley have a moment with the title at the end of the show. And just the way we came out of that show, and everybody was feeling good and positive about what we had just seen. It was such a different kind of energy because Forbidden Door wasn't something we had seen before, and it was, but it was something that everybody had kind of dreamed about and talked about the possibilities of and all those things. But and I think statistically, and I've had this talk with TK, but I'm pretty sure statistically it is the most successful debut of an AEW branded pay-per-view of all time. Of the 5 pay-per-views that we have now, almost 6 coming up with All In here soon. But so I love it, right? It's great, and I love the expansion. But just thinking about,
it's a huge summer for AEW.
Oh my god,
this is kind of kicking it off, right? Yeah.
Oh my god.
So how did you feel coming off of it last year? What was that feeling once that final bell had rung, once the fans were making their way out? What was the feeling that had come over you as far as Forbidden Door was concerned?
I was like, we pulled it off. Somehow we pulled it off. Because like I said, going into that week, everything was falling apart. And just when I knew the show started, it was like, oh, okay, I think everything is going to be all right. Let's just hope that nobody else gets hurt tonight. And we each match progressed and it got better and better. When you got to like Will versus OC.
Oh my god!
That was such an incredible match. The funny thing is, like, I feel like fans, like, that's a dream match, right? But like, there's OC is a controversial, polarizing wrestler and figure, right? Like, in the way that his character is and everything. So, like, I feel like people didn't know they wanted to see that match until they actually saw it, and then they were like, oh. We'd see this anytime. You can run this back as many times as you want, and we'd love it every time, and it'd be different and amazing. So, and they stole the show. They really definitely stole the show. So, the final bell was just like, my wife was there. I gave her a big hug. I saw Tony. We gave each other a big hug. Saw Gato, gave him a big hug. Everybody was like, yeah, we did it. Just because it was really difficult getting up to it. But yeah, I was very, very pleased, and I thought the show was fantastic. But everybody brought it, and I was more than happy, and I was like, okay, let's do it again next year. But let's let's take a breath or two, and maybe a vacation. Maybe Rocky needs a vacation before we do this. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes, I fully understand. I can't even imagine. I have a hard time on show day. I can't imagine being a part of planning a pay-per-view that is, having all of these crazy things happening. This is excellent conversation. I love what we're talking about last year. We're talking about this year. We've got so much to talk about. We haven't even touched on matches that are happening this year yet. Make sure you turn in this Sunday, June 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern, buy-ins at 7. Live from Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Canada. The Toronto crowd is insane. I can't wait for this. It's available traditional pay-per-view. Stream it on Bleacher Report, Fight TV. We've got more coming up here on AEW Unrestricted. AEW Unrestricted, Aubrey and Will talking to Rocky Romero about this year's Forbidden Door. Last year was such an incredible show. This year is happening this Sunday, June 25th, live from Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Canada. Available traditional pay-per-view. You can stream it on Bleacher Report, Fight TV. Make sure you watch this show, because if last year was any indication, this year is going to top it. And we only have a few matches announced yet. I know we've got Rampage coming up this week. We've got Collision this week. The card's going to come together. We're going to see kind of how everything pulls together. But even just these 4 matches itself are worth tuning in and buying this pay-per-view for, personally, as a wrestling fan. And I am probably most excited about Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, because they had that epic banger. It was just insane. And I've mentioned this before, as soon as that bell rung, my opinion was, oh, they've got so much more left in the tank. There is so much more here. So, Rocky, how excited are you for this match?
Extremely excited. I was there at Wrestle Kingdom and got to watch it live, and was like, it was one of those moments. The same thing happened to me when I watched Kenny versus Okada for the first time. It was just like, oh, we're watching something that's extremely special, that we made, something that broke that barrier. This is more than just a great, fantastic match. It's like that upper echelon of something historic and unique. And we get to experience it again, thank God. And Forbidden Door too. And I think that they're gonna blow the roof off the joint. I mean, literally, probably those two. I mean, they're two of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen or been in the ring with. And their chemistry together is
unreal.
It's unreal. I don't even know how to describe it. Just the intensity that they do everything with, and how athletic they are, and storytelling, and I don't know. It's just incredible.
Yeah, no, those two together is just something magnificent. I didn't get the pleasure of being there, but I was up at 4:00 in the morning watching it, and it was one of those things. It was can't miss.
Respect.
And honestly, just getting to see that live and watching these guys do what they were doing, and it wasn't the match I was expecting. When you put Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay on paper, there's a certain sense of athleticism you expect, and then all of a sudden, they turned it around into something completely different, and something that was entirely unique to really both of their careers. And to know that coming up this Sunday, we're going to see these two get to do that again, and knowing what else they have in the tank for each other it's just mind-blowing to think about. We also have, for the IWGP World Championships, Sanada with an open challenge, and it was answered by Jungle Boy Jack Perry.
I'm excited about this one. Rocky, yes. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. I think that I'm definitely curious to see how their styles mesh and match up. But I think this could be the Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy, the one that we don't see, that actually could potentially steal the show. That kind of dark horse. So I'm very excited about it. I think I'm happy that Sanada is one of the fresh talents that we got to bring over for, this year. He wasn't on the card last year, able to come this year, and now in a completely different position. He's the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. So, really excited for the AEW audience who's not familiar with him to experience Sanada, because he's fantastic.
I think one of the things that AEW is really good at is, especially like outside of Forbidden Door, like when we have new talent come in on Dynamite, like the one that sticks out in my mind is El Hijo de Vikingo, where it's like no one know who this guy is, but like we basically say this person is very important to wrestling and you are going to love this. And I think the AEW audience trusts us when we do that, and it's great. And I admittedly I'm not as familiar with all the New Japan talent as I should be, but like anytime I see something announced, I'm like, I know this is a big deal as a wrestling fan. Like this is going to be excellent. And seeing the growth that Jack has shown on the show over the years, like knowing that he has earned this spot, that this match is going to be good. I 100% agree with the assessment that this is going to be like the Orange Cassidy Will Ospreay of this year. I also like that that's like a comparison we can make now, like Orange Cassidy and Will Ospreay. Right? Like who knew like 3 years ago that we would say those two names together, like, oh yeah, no, this is going to be that match of this year. Like absolutely crazy. Speaking, no, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and Jack Perry is somebody that has almost a bit of a chip on his shoulder in the sense that
100%.
There's always he has his detractors and he knows he does, and it's almost like that almost gives him that extra motivation to prove people wrong, and that when you put him in a situation and somebody goes, well, what's Jack Perry going to bring to this, and then Jack Perry ends up being the guy that brings it. And I think with a shot at the IWGP World Championship, and knowing that Jack Perry has talked about all year that he's got a quest for holding singles gold, that he's the only one of the pillars that never got to hold singles gold, and that eats at him. And I think this is something that he's been preparing for this entire time, and I'm really looking forward to that.
So Jack Perry, we can talk about him, pillars and whatnot. And obviously when we're talking about pillars, we have to talk about MJF and just the things that he has done for this company and who he's become, even though he's a huge asshole. Like he is so great. He's a generational talent and he's the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. And to see him be the one going up against Tanahashi this year, like absolute friggin' dream match. Like I didn't know I wanted it until it got announced, and now I'm like, I am so excited to see this because both those guys and both their styles together in the ring, battling for such a huge championship in wrestling. Rocky, tell me how excited you are for this.
Yeah, as you were talking, the only thing I kept thinking about was the generational ace against the generational asshole. That's the only thing. I was like, oh, that's the tag.
That's your soundbite. That's your soundbite.
No, I'm really excited about this match. Obviously, like Tanahashi, second year in a row, getting the opportunity to possibly win the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. And if anybody, I don't know, I think it would be cool if Tana won. I'm hoping Tana wins.
You're slightly biased, but yeah,
I'm slightly biased, but yeah, I don't know. I think it would be something that'd be interesting for MJF in MJF's history. Like that to not want this match, to kind of be forced into this match because he's the AEW champion. He needs to defend the belt, in this situation. And here's Hiroshi Tanahashi calling him out. And MJF has not been kind to saying very nice things about New Japan Pro Wrestling at all. So, I mean, I'm also biased. I want Tanahashi to kick his ass, and I want to see if, I think MJF also has a chip on his shoulder to prove, I think, to a lot of people that, he can go as hard as he can, like we saw that in that Bryan Danielson match, how, a different MJF than I think that we've ever seen, and I feel like this match with Tanahashi is going to be that same kind of MJF. I feel that he's going to be extremely aggressive and he's going to maybe see some new things that we haven't really seen out of him. And he continues to surprise people and always bring something different each time he gets, these kind of huge opportunities. So, yeah, I'm extremely excited about it. And I mean, Tanahashi's the best of all time, in my opinion. I mean, if you talk about like a Japanese, talent, I mean, he's the guy who's been synonymous with New Japan for the last 20 years. He's the ace of the company, and he still is. And he's given his body and heart and soul, blood, sweat, and tears, to raise New Japan to where it is currently. And so, yeah, it's a cool matchup. It's a cool match for somebody who's such a detractor and somebody who talks a lot of shit on New Japan Pro Wrestling. To have Hiroshi Tanahashi step up and take him on is going to be cool.
Yeah, and Max has talked about not wanting this match. He mentioned last week on Dynamite that I've no-showed Tony Khan bookings before. What would stop me from no-showing this one? But I feel like he has an opportunity to prove something here and to prove his doubters wrong. And he's constantly done that throughout this title reign. And I think he has a good opportunity to do that. And I'm hoping that Max comes through on this. I'm hoping that Max, for all the trash he's talked on New Japan Pro Wrestling, this is an opportunity for him to prove that if he is truly as above New Japan as he feels he is, this is a chance to prove it against the Ace. And Max, you have to do the match. You just have to.
Just for all of us. All of us want this.
You better show up.
You better show up.
I know you're an asshole, but do this one good thing in your life.
Right.
Yes.
Oh,
well, it's Forbidden Door, so maybe he won't show up, right? I mean,
the door will open, and it's like, we're just waiting.
Yeah.
And then in a dream match that literally, if you said to me 5 years ago this was even possible, I would go, how? I don't see, you would have to paint multiple scenarios for me where it could possibly happen, and even still I'd go, no way. I don't see it. It's a match that has to live in my head. But here it is. Bryan Danielson, Kazuchika Okada, one-on-one. Talk about what a dream match we have here. This is I mean it.
We're also giddy. We're like, yes, Danielson. Oh God!
I mean, I lost for words talking about this, because that's how we feel.
I can't believe it. Honestly, I try not to use the term dream match loosely because I think that's a phrase that should really be reserved for the matches of our dreams. This is a match of our dreams. This is Bryan Danielson. This is Okada. These are two of the greatest talents in the history of professional wrestling that have never, not even in a slight capacity, come in physical contact, and these two are going to have a one-on-one match at Forbidden Door. Rocky Romero talked to us about what this match means for New Japan Pro Wrestling and wrestling in general.
I mean, yeah, I think this is almost for me, like for Okada, this is kind of like massive, because we've seen Okada have big moments with a lot of wrestlers, Kenny and Will, and, now we've seen a little bit with Mox, kind of rub shoulders with Mox here and there. But that kind of upper echelon, super famous wrestler that, is bigger than just the wrestling business. That's who I would love for Okada to kind of wrestle and see where he matches up in this whole thing, at the end of it, when it's all said and done. So going against Danielson is that, and I feel like they're both the wrestling that they've been doing in the last few years has been on such a higher level than everybody else. So it's okay, this is the perfect time that this needs to happen, and it needs to happen right now this year while they're both killing it. And I don't know. I just want to see it. I just wish it was Sunday and I was about to watch it. And I'm gonna go into the arena, I think, to watch this when it actually happens. I want to sit amongst the fans and feel the energy, because I think it's going to be something really special at the end of the day.
I feel like whenever we see these crazy pay-per-view cards, and this one in particular, as you said, we're just literally getting giddy on this podcast. But I saw that get announced, and I love Bryan Danielson. He's my favorite wrestler in the world, but I'm I kind of don't want to ref that because I kind of just want to watch it because it's so great. And it right. You just know going into it. And especially because we didn't get to watch Bryan be a part of Forbidden Door last year, that like I feel like he's maybe coming into this with like a little bit more like he's got to make up for the fact that we didn't have him. And there's just so much more to it. This is going to be my match of the show. Like there's so many good things happening, and I know there's so many more good things to be announced still happening, but this is going to be the one that I think blows people away. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to tune in this Sunday, June 25th, 8:00 Eastern, live from Scotiabank in Toronto. I can't even get the words out because I'm so excited. Traditional pay-per-view, Bleacher Report, Fight TV. You need to be tuning in to Forbidden Door. It was an excellent pay-per-view this year. Last year. This year's going to be even crazier. We've got even more to talk about coming up and just how excited we are. Oh my God!
AEW Unrestricted. I'm Will Washington. She's Aubrey Edwards. We're talking about Forbidden Door live, Scotiabank Arena this Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be live on traditional pay-per-view and Bleacher Report. But we've got a lot more to talk about right here on this show today. We're going to get back into Forbidden Door 22 a little bit.
I kind of want to. Like, it was just so good, and I don't feel like we've given it, like, the flowers that it deserved.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that show got a lot of flowers, but I feel like there's a lot has happened since then that it's almost crazy to think about some of the big moments from last year. Like, we had Pac. He won his first singles championship in AEW last year. We crowned the first ever. At the time, it was the All-Atlantic Championship. Now it is, of course, the International Championship held by Orange Cassidy. But we established that belt last year at Forbidden Door. And even still, you know, that match had some changes going into it because I don't think we were expecting Clark Connors. And then Clark Connors comes through, and I think it shocked that audience in Chicago, who a lot of them weren't familiar with him, but by the time it was over, came away from that going, all right, I want to see more of Clark Connors. So, again, just last year, there were so many big moments and things that just outperformed the hype. What was your favorite moment from that show last year, Rocky?
Favorite moment? Man, there was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that four-way. You know, that four-way was really awesome as well. Man, favorite moment? Honestly, favorite moment was probably ended up being Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy. I mean, I know we talked about it a lot already, but that was probably my favorite moment. And just kind of being a part of it, you know. Like we had the three-way for the IWGP and the was it Ring of Honor and what else? Yeah, that was it was a double title match, right? We had the three-way
double title match.
Trying to remember that. Yeah, I was a part of it. I forgot. A lot going on that day. But yeah, with the United Empire, FTR. And then Roppongi Vice. So, I mean, that was fun just being a part of it and just being in the arena wrestling. And, you know, that's always going to be, I'm a performer, so that's always going to be my favorite part, just being involved. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, last year was incredible. I think this year we're setting the bar really high. I'm stressed out about if we do this again next year, where we're going to go from there. I think about it every night. I can't sleep. It's really awesome. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I don't know how it happens, but every time we have a pay-per-view, it's just like, how can we possibly top this? And we still find a way. And I know that like both of you had mentioned, like the four-way was so cool. Like I kind of came up with Clark Connors. He's originally from the PNW and then came down to the dojo. So it was one of those, like, I got to work with him a lot when he was first starting, and to see like when he filled in because there was, you know, I think it was like a COVID situation or something. Like I don't remember why, but he kind of got slotted in last minute, and the internet going, who the hell is this guy? I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And I feel like that match, like really, like those guys did such a great job elevating him. One of my other favorite moments was Claudio Castagnoli and the debut of him against Zack Sabre Jr. And knowing going into that, like, I think everyone wanted Zach and Bryan, and that was going to be great. And then Bryan got hurt. And I make a concerted effort to stay away from wrestling dirt sheets because I like being excited. And it wasn't until the moment that I saw him walk out from the back that I went, oh yeah, duh. Of course this is who it is. Like, it makes all the sense in the world. And to see Claudio thrive in AEW and just knowing his background, like with all the Chikara boys, like his history with all of them and him to finally be here, it was just like that. I think like seeing him and seeing his music pop, and then the crowd just like, oh, like it was, that was probably my favorite moment.
I was genuinely excited. Like you mentioned the reunion with the Chikara boys, like literally as I was, the picture that Bryce posted of him getting to share that moment with Claudio, I took that picture and I sent it to Bryce because I just realized in this moment, I'm like, oh my God, it's Bryce and Claudio back together. This is incredible. This is a moment in itself. And if you weren't familiar enough with Chikara, you really don't understand the magnitude of seeing these two together again. So that was just a really cool thing to see these two get to share that moment last year.
You know what was a cool moment too was I forgot about at the end of OC and Osprey, the Shibata moment.
Shibata,
yes. How did we forget about
this? Put on. How did we forget about that? It was a great moment. Yeah.
Oh my God,
so good. No, honestly, a little anecdote from that show. I love this story, but. I have this thing. I love talking to strangers, especially strangers who aren't familiar with pro wrestling, because I love to get to pick their brain. But there was a security guard who was at ringside, and I was sat by him, and he had no idea what he was at. He just, he had to work the show. He was an employee of United Center, and he leans into me and he goes, "So, what is this show?" And I go,
that's a hard question to unpack, sir.
Right? Yeah. And he was like, because I'm seeing like Japanese signs everywhere, and he goes, "Is this like a touring thing?" And I'm like, "You're at the one and only, sir." And he goes, "Really? This?" He's like, "This is the one." I said, "This is the one. All these fans you're seeing around here have all come from different parts of the world to see this show here. You are at the one and only." And like. He goes, okay, and he pulls out his phone. He's like taking selfies over his shoulder because, he can't like turn around and watch the show. But he's like, right. I can see these fans are all passionate and emotional about something, and I have to know what it is. When Okada's music hit, I swear to you, there was this reaction. It was like Michael Jackson had walked in, right? It was like, it just felt like such a superstar was in the building. And he leans in and he goes, "This seems like a really big deal. Who is this?" And I turned to him and I was like, "This is Okada. He is a really, really big deal for New Japan Pro Wrestling." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to try and sneak a picture." And he's like trying to get a picture like over his shoulder of Okada. And it was so great. And I was so happy to watch that happen because it was like in real time, I was seeing somebody realize how big of a deal Forbidden Door is. And that was probably, being in that building, my favorite moment from that show, is just seeing it through somebody new's eyes and who wasn't familiar with AEW or New Japan Pro Wrestling, but walking away from it in the end going, I see how much this meant to these fans. I see how much that this means to the world. And it's a really cool thing.
I'm kind of curious thinking about all of that and thinking that like, I remember when Forbidden Door last year was first announced, and I giggled at the name because it's like this thing that you would never think of as happening. Like these, like just even two promotions in wrestling working together, like two people at the highest, like AEW with New Japan. Like it's just crazy to even think of that this is even a possibility. So Rocky, I'm kind of curious, like how did this idea initially come about?
So I think this is how it's happened. Now it's been a while. I think that I've told this story like 3 times, and I'm like, God, I hope this is how it happened because I think this is how it. But I think I sent Tony a message, and I was like, "What if we just did a pay-per-view together?" And initially, I was like, we could have some crossover matches. AEW can have some highlighted matches. New Japan can have some highlighted matches. But we bring, we do the event co-branded together. And he was like, the first thing you did was send me like 8 matches back or like something. It was like,
he's already thought of. He already has in his notebook.
I was like, well, all these sound amazing, like some of the matches I think stuck. Like, I think it was like, whoa, yeah. Well, they at least got announced like Punk and Tanahashi and like some other stuff that ended up being there. Yeah, but like, so I was like, okay, cool. So we talked about it a little bit more in the next like weeks following. And then it was like, oh, this is like starting to become a real idea. Talked to New Japan. They seemed up for it. And then I started talking to Chris Harrington about it. And then it just got realer and realer. And then the next thing I know is like, yeah, we're doing contracts. We're doing this whole thing. And it was like, oh, we're off to the races. Like this is happening, in a big way. So, and then like, which also opened up the door for other business, like
no pun intended.
like, Dynamite, Rampage coming to NJPWworld.com, which, which is, the biggest wrestling streaming service in Japan. So like opening up the door for a lot of different things. And it was really, really cool to see the crossover aspect of New Japan and AEW really start to form a relationship and a business partnership that's, I think, helping both sides in expansion and growth in both their area, different areas, so it's been cool. It's been really amazing. And it just started from one text, and Tony was into it, thank God. And I think that's how it went down. Don't quote me.
We're going to say that's what it is. And I mean, the moment Chris Harrington gets involved, it's like, okay, this is actually happening. This is what's going down. I like it because Forbidden Door is great for fans, but it's great for the business of wrestling. Like the doors that it opens, like the amount of people who are at AEW who now have exposure in Japan, the people from New Japan that now have exposure in America that they wouldn't normally have otherwise. Like, it's great for all of us, and we all benefit from something like this. So thank you for taking this fever dream and texting it, because I think literally more people have benefited than you could probably even imagine. So thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate that.
No, and I hope that this will be, obviously, as the relationships, get deeper and deeper here, like I hope that, we will see more AEW wrestlers, especially the younger talent coming over to Japan and working in New Japan and really, getting those reps in so that they can come back. And almost like in New Japan, they have a thing where they send young rookie wrestlers to like an excursion. I think that, New Japan could be, a thing for that, for certain talents to come over, and also working with our sister company Stardom, for the women's division. I think that could be something really cool. And then, and I think, vice versa, so I think it would really, really work out great for both companies.
This is, dude, I'm just so freaking pumped. I know, like, we only know a few of the matches, with Rampage happening tomorrow, with Collision happening Saturday. There's so much more in store, and this is going to be an absolutely bonkers pay-per-view. It's one of those things, like, I always like wonder, like, am I jinxing it? And it's like, I don't think I'm jinxing it. I think in this instance, like, we all know it's going to be great. It's going to be one of the greatest pay-per-views this year, potentially the greatest one of all time. I'm not going to put it, no pressure, Rocky, no pressure at all.
I mean, it honestly could be. So, I mean,
it very well could be.
It's definitely not out of the realm to say that, like, in some kind of way. I mean, I don't want to put expectations too high, but I mean, they're high. When you announce Danielson versus Okada, expectations are going to be high. There's no way around it.
Just that one match, no big deal.
Yeah,
just the one match that no one ever saw actually happening, that we all get to like view as fans and just enjoy. Like, thank you for coming on the podcast today, Rocky. Thank you for previewing Forbidden Door with us. Like, we're all clearly very giddy. For everyone who's listening and watching this, it's just like, I think it's great because we're all just wrestling fans in this moment. We're all just so excited about the cool things that we're about to witness. And I hate saying like history being made, because I think it's overdone in wrestling, but that's literally what this is. This is so freaking great. The first Forbidden Door did it, and I think we're just well on our way to do it again for this one. So make sure you tune in Sunday, June 25th, 8 o'clock Eastern, live from Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. Those Toronto fans are going to be absolutely nuts. Like, I can't wait. Make sure you tune in. Traditional pay-per-view. You can also stream it on Bleach Report, Fight TV. This has been Unrestricted. Will Washington and Aubrey getting the chance to talk to the wonderful and amazing Rocky Romero here. Listen to this podcast every Thursday. I'm just so pumped for Forbidden Door. Thank you so much for being here today, Rocky.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. See you Sunday.